Hello, Bob Woodward. The news networks are recorded involved with crime receptions with their police into branch and with leaders retired and standing as victim predators per what was exploiting how everyone separates issues and doesn't let defendants who are innocent demonstrate that. In other words, because we have the courts involved with areas crimes, and then when someone tries to tell on them, they switch it around by forging names and switching names inter-branch, inter-campuses, and on-off campuses further criminally involved. From a base propagated with that, which was non-distinctly through our nations, worse than ignored and exploited by all positions of identities of law, recorded worse than criminally incompetent. For example, the president demonstrated that he wants to demonstrate, he wants equality of fact treatment nature as the other presidents did. That was not allowed because of offensive dishonesty, because of all victim predators for evidence reception rackets, where they have they have the phenomena of everything leveraged for their own ones with the ease of evidence reception, and where that's not true, they're involved just easily made denials of that offensive bully natures, pretending to be against that. Sequence shifting styles. See, because we have nations shared there and here with natures of business uncharged originally and still, that are manifest with as nations shared, exploiting areas, methods of crime bonded, that where and how this was just completely a fact-cheaping nature racket concerning the questions of the human nature regarding what used color, what used criminally foreign influence zoning laws, pathology, and a fact-cheaping nature invested to offensive evidence reception problems. Exploitations of that, reliances upon that, because that's what you have when someone has to demonstrate all kinds of natures of crimes and liars tied to recorded standing juxtaposed natures of pseudo-care and of hurt and of insidiousness, criminal insidiousness. I'm not a lawyer, not a police form, not criminal. This is recorded for crime acts and for crimes against mandate, not letting it reported. And by interbranch, we're pretending things recorded into databases more and more when people try to demonstrate this. Because they're keeping only realized correlation nature, trinity nature, all lied to by the same people who pretend they're not lying and have integrity because of a phenomenon at the Trade Center level, where these negotiations originally instilled, these trade agreements were sick here and there, where they have the phenomenon of the ability to maintain a minority as victim predators, criminally foreign influenced, keep in a way already exploiting it and invested, and cultivating the base that was propagated to keep everybody standing, lie progression, cover-up natures, lie progressions tied to each database, which was the recorded motivations of the crime acts that are interbranch forging names, switching names, with Trade Center crime rolls, and where and how we have all experience and capable of defending themselves and us from what exploited other nations that maintained Weathersfield's, Connecticut interbranch crime rolls, intercity, interstate, and with the Trade Center context, leading up to it and since. CCSU and a Scalora family recorded and confessed to me and to others criminal involvements with agencies criminally involved and their family members. This is requiring demonstrations of offensive evidence reception crimes and fake news crime acts that were recorded consciously being used to force the president to sequence shift cover-up styles. because the trade center agreements, who's right or wrong about the Gulf War, about the response to the trade center attack, because we're a whole bunch of we have the trade center, other nations have the equivalent. We're all in the value nature systems that are tactically ulterior from the one that religions are about. So we have religions already set up, insidiously maintained inter-sciences, all victim predators, from off campuses, minority keeping on off campuses, everyone with and as an identity of progression, negative value nature progression that no one understands and or how they're exploiting it. So everyone is too late when someone who's trying to explain parts of that would have to everyone understand it. The acts, the crime acts, they're not letting it reported because we have interbranch forging names, switching names. We have psychology with the nations of they call allies recorded involved with crimes like Russians, crimes against Russians and crimes against the Trade Center with like a Dr. Leahy pretending to have a conversation with me. Through time recorded with crimes with identity thefts. I've never had a conversation with him in my life, and or his son, Brendan Leahy. A number of people, like 4 Joe DeMoros related to each other, criminally involved, directly and indirectly with CCSU, with the branches, with the crime acts in their cases and with their databases, and with their police forms with on and off campuses police, private police. They're keeping the natures of industries all victim predators. They're keeping value nature systems ours, justifying what is unjustifiable, not needing to be justified. We need to do is admit it. That's how you secure. That's how you can claim that even the suburbs are below bottom. That's how we can simultaneously force who's hurt worse by our tactically denatured relationship to nature better than free. In other words, all we have to do is admit. We all send in the means. We all prepare the means instantly. Then we're also a nature of identity that can demonstrate. That people can't deny. Our species bonds cause that was ignored. Since before each modern nation's founding, our American history, our founding fathers, their identities were stole because the narratives with the law recorded criminally foreign influenced, criminally made legal, said it was legalized to be criminal insidious this nature. Not just rolls with overt slavery and all that, especially that overt slavery without explaining the fact-cheaping nature of slavery of our founders. Because understanding that is a pathology. I mean, what is it? Understanding that is a nature of correlation, an identity of correlation capable of revealing what reveals evolution as our nature's positive relationship to itself. It won't come through what pseudo-unity, only positive in relationship to sick. Each modern nation blaming the real causes of negative value nature progressions and acts on others, and other things, not self, because each area, each age of each area and state of each modern nation is in a trap that has forsaken our kids. And so we have to demonstrate forgiveness, especially because this is what made worse than criminal incompetence legal natures in relationship to organized crime that our American history is actually about. And though as the people needing to pretend offensively other, because everyone was raised not to think. And worse than that, they have interbranch families demonstrate, confess, and record that and how overt criminal enterprises are involved with crimes with evidence perception offensive. Because they're trying to push off how that was really, that's what really keeps the overt criminal enterprises overt victim predators. That's what, and it's all, they're also, these are the branches. In other words, we have a whole bunch of nations that have criminal justice systems and prisons with areas crimes that are completely fact-cheap in nature, racket, offensive evidence reception crimes. So they're preventing people from demonstrating the sabotage of correlation as evidence itself, as treatments justified of color, even entertaining President Obama's. God bless him, but it's unacceptable. His treatments of his entertainment of even Jim Crow law, speaking about it now, because that organized crime, not just him, every single person, and you know, to have faith. You know, I'm not. They're not letting Donald Trump have free speech, because this is a nature of conversation. To explain it, you have to speak about what all these nations were forced share to agreements unevenly, but to hide lies. In other words, because they're all involved with nuclear weapons, peaceful nuclear that has to be protected. In other words, lying for legitimate reasons with areas of space nature, but that being exploited the way it was set up to be by what was sophistication here before anything was sophistication, not by accident. We're still with, since before cars were invented, a pathology of homes that were forced, you know, before even they had cars, with laws that were slavery against our founders, which is against every single person of color. They were forcing group force. That is inseparable from group think. That is inseparable from what forced us to World War I by forcing fake sides, to invest that force defended. They invested, you know, when they attack Hitler's name, that's not real always. There's not honesty always. If they really wanted to counter that full, what was behind that on all sides? That is what is sickly distinctly hurting each modern nation to keep how non-distinctly are keeping tools. Our nations through what is really left negotiated with the Trade Center, tied to their crimes with Connecticut interbranch actors, crime acts, forging names, switching sequences, interstate, with the state judicial branch offices, with houses next to it, with the fake news crime acts, with a Fienza family. I don't know, then they shot me out. The only time I know to do that, I know, you know, I explained that online. Then people are like, oh, why are you trying to talk about other people? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. See, but they don't let, in other words, this is why these are people also recorded and confessed involved in crimes with a detective Dylan. And with a whole bunch, you know, this is a whole bunch of nations exploiting intercity through time. And like with this Fienza family associated with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, recorded and confessed and then verified online, involved criminally with the bodies dumping spot of Billy Grasso, with fake news acts with his family involved with it through time. Tied to that, his crime rolls with his Dillon family also tied to forensics labs and drug clicks with untimely deaths, where they used criminal uses of the context of them for crime acts and roles with crime acts in courts and interbranch, using their databases, using crime acts in courts, sequence shifts, tied to a proven sequence shift in the Ninth Circuit from the Trade Center attack context. Same actors recorded and confessed and demonstrated, tied to further recorded crime acts and roles with interbranch families interstate, and like with prisons and stuff like that, shared policing, shared doctors of psychology involved with each of the branches, pseudo, you know, experts, criminally foreign influence, and recorded with juxtaposed with physical delusions, you know, and worse, because everyone's a victim predator. So they want to hide behind titles that they force as the opinion natures, you know, relationships with the job narratives, value narratives, because reality is a value progression that these are tactically ulterior from. So nature is going to continue to demonstrate negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Acts like predicate acts. Natures like wrongdoers, like associate criminals, criminal enterprises, needing to hide, being used as fact cheating nature tools, all juxtaposed. To understand when we switch the names, and we switch the colors in Little Rap Guy and Friends, and with the movies and stuff like that. Also, so we have to set something forth. So we're going to set forth a nature of industry that other natures of industry can't handle, because everybody is invested to be to roles being used through other persuasions that are using the identities of areas, of jobs of areas, for off the record things that are manifest as a phenomenon, keeping everybody from demonstrating how correlation natures, the Trinity simultaneously inherent and active and progressive means, could demonstrate that Hartford, Connecticut never had legal representation. New Britain, Connecticut never had legal representation, and worse. And that is tied to their criminal uses of fact treatments and crime acts that they won't correct because they have the courts recorded involved with them criminally. So they're trying to make the news crime acts separate from their own, interbranch, because they were propagated to need to hide lie progressions, need to hide fact treatment nature racket rolls to all areas, intercampuses. This is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated through time. That's why I noted today, because I heard one of my neighbors say to his mother, what is it? Go fuck yourself. I think it was his tumor. I couldn't see with my eyes. It was with my look. Because then she was saying you're a liar and stuff like that. I don't know, but those are the people with extended relatives involved with identity thefts against me, and with crime rolls, with forensics cliques of different natures, and with various natures of police and people involved with prisons, foreign and domestic, and with overt criminal enterprises, acts, and criminal insidiousness natures with the area, and intercity through time, intercampuses with crime acts. See, what they do, too, also with federal crime acts, they invest people intercity to make, and with confessions. This is what semi-confessions were engineered for religion, demonstrably, plausibly, because, in other words, they're using confessions ahead of time because this is a crime method against each age of fact cheating nature. Before people are like 6 to 10, they're already having demonstrated to them that interbranch families are involved with criminal insidiousness nature. Or in other words, or at least we'll say, well, with that, overall, with education, with treatments of even, not even just overall, but with treatments of Jim Crow laws. That's a quality of fact treatment nature that then defends itself, defending title's integrity, rely upon contrast to people hurt by the same thing longer, other nations. Rely upon contrast, not correlation nature's identity. In other words, rely upon who has to suffer to counter things as forwards and or as retreats where fact treatment nature retreat. And that's offensively forward evidence reception predators, where everyone doesn't think and they have the jobs and types of experts think for them as liars. Bob Woodward's recorded lying to himself and to others to pretend integrity. These are sequence shifts tied to former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on RICO law, Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Act. I'm a lawyer, not a police former, not a criminal. The organized crime, statutes, treatments, fact treatment nature, quality treatments, sequence nature treatments. Now, see, that guy had co-defendants in his 2006 case associated with people criminally involved with extortion and bid, with mail crimes, with wire crimes, with crimes with court police, intercity, but before the Trade Center attack, and in the context of it, and since, in intercampuses, as intercampuses police, and roles with psychology and foreign and domestic shared with that. Agreements with markets and things like that, juxtaposed with things like psychology, drugs, and stuff like that. These are people that are involved with news crimes and crimes with policing of inter policing, because they're involved with this expert lean that is being criminally foreign influenced to stay self-cultivated roles with a base that is incapable of not being lie progressions, not being lie progression cover-up natures, not being roles in collusion with narratives of pseudo-positive needing to pretend sub-roles as not criminally foreign influenced, which is reflected in fact-cheating natures, even entertaining treatments of Jim Crow laws outside of an organized crime conversation and outside of one that's pretending we're one. What our founders didn't have free speech to demonstrate we have to win as fact-cheating nature, quality that is capable of telling on the sequence shifts, on the natures of naive, on countering the natures of naive fact-cheat. In other words, they're not stupid enough to believe when the president says, I think I'll be a good witness, to think that they could pull over the tricks where they pretend someone's lying when there's exceptions to everything. They're making a monolithic, they're forcing a quality of fact-cheating nature that is in collusion, what is forcing groupthink, because that is maintaining all roles self-cultivated to the base propagated criminally foreign influence, which is the answer to why there was Jim Crow laws, because everybody was a criminally foreign influence victim, predator, criminal, insidious nature. Who tries to deny that has to hide lies and delusions. Mixed, criminal foreign influences, recorded, standing. Free speech does not mean ignore criminal exploitations of sub-rosa, knave, trick, precedents, recorded criminally foreign influence with offensive trick, fact-cheating nature, pretending that that's a lie because someone's noting an exception. I said online before there was a I don't know her, and my first wife doesn't know her, Claudia Scalora, but she established verbally, offensively, she kept repeating that she's her best friend, she's her best friend, because we have foreign students involved with, and she's also told her and other people confessed to me. And in other words, she's involved criminally with people that were involved criminally with CCSU from my town, interbranch through time, intermilitary. And this is with foreign military too involved, like Kuwait, and involved with deans of colleges criminally involved. And then with all, it's a way of name stacking. It's a way of exploiting the sensibilities, not just of titles, but of space nature's relationship to databases, to official interscience, all victim roles with physical delusions and criminal foreign influences, interscience originally still maintained to be self-exploiting, where and how it was completely a fact-cheating nature racket, where and how we're using what's true always and not exploiting exceptions, especially not criminally, not how facilitated to this by what is maintaining it, pretended not realized. That's starting a fight with someone trying to, fix the fake news crime acts, stop pretending that they're not sequence shifting and already involved with criminality, preventing me. This is extortion. They know that I was in the Trade Center attack context, not in where it got hit. Right before it left, it happened, we left. They know that was tied to a proven sequence shift from inside the Ninth Circuit right there. They know that Claudia Scalora was this recorded and confessed involved with crimes with Wethersfield police, with courts. with a Demoro family, with CCSU, with fake news crime acts clicks, with criminality, with journalists before there are even journalists. Because this is criminal uses of what is intercampuses. Maintain the original still, all that juxtaposed interbranch criminally foreign influence was at the same way that made that each age of fact chiefing nature roles with uses of the lie progressions kept needed by each. You know, they're using courts sicker than guns upon the areas with the most shootings. They're using interbranch collusion with that. Police forms, identities of positions. They're using fire departments involved criminally. And with Russians, so it's going to get hurt for them to have to, you know. And so also they're not letting reported for sustained sexual crimes. That's what brought up the Phil Clo with the identity thefts and two Mendez brothers that pretended they knew me through time. They did a phenomenon where, in other words, they had a Joe DeMoro, also with Wethersfield Police, recorded a confession before when he was a kid, involved criminally. Also with a Pruzzi family, confirmed. I never had a personal conversation with him. Only time that wasn't personal was someone, Joe DeMoro was standing there, that wanted me to do a maze of that Joe DeMoro drew, a maze. These are people involved with criminal justice, inter-sciences crimes, with investigators tied foreign and domestic, needing to hide lie progressions, rackets with criminal justice, their crime roles with crime acts with the news, and then with treatments of Paul Manafort. Crime acts in cases too, interbranch crime acts on and off their state judicial branch offices, on and off the state of Connecticut prison offices, Franklin Avenue, and you know Hartford, Wethersfield, and on both sides of it is different. That building. In other words, there's a Cuddy family. I never had a conversation with one of the Cuddy brothers. No, there's like 3 or 4 of them. Also recorded and confessed involved by people tied to them, criminally involved with this. Crimes with that's with other people with forensics crimes too. State police crime roles, foreign and domestic. How they have foreign families associated with experts with badges that are psychology. They have physical delusions juxtaposed with criminal foreign influences. That's one of the reasons is how they obfuscate identities, hierarchy, and demonstration to a real science that is not defending fake positive, the identity of positive, which is bigger than it, like our identity is bigger than our body. Each complete identity of each cell demonstrably has as I'm not even a doctor, has an identity hierarchy. Has a sequence nature, sharing a different nature of sequence, a simultaneous nature. And identity is not only a simultaneous nature. The reason it is a simultaneous nature, because we can see how it is a value transfer nature. And we can see how that value transfer is an identity, a value nature relationship to itself that our nature has inside the complete nature of value. You know, in other words, value's complete nature was greater than space nature before physical space nature before it was bonded. And then, so it stays bigger than all finite, grouped, and all together, all identities of temporary / lasting identity of value nature progression. Inside values nature. So we have the nature of positive. No matter who we are, we want positive food to eat, clean water to drink. But see, we're a value nature system that doesn't value this, not by accident. That's denied, and that's exploited, not by accident. So please, news. It's nothing personal. They're going to tell you to take it personal. They're going to influence you. All we need is one person to follow mandated law and allow the interbranch sex crime acts to be demonstrated that came first before they arrest people with lies recorded too. Federal crimes, forging names, switching names. Police putting fake arresting officers into databases. Worse, areas crimes, intercampus crimes through time. So that's stacked up because the way they have foreign and domestic and collusion exploiting there and here, exploiting trade agreements tied to natures of experts criminally involved. With the Santa Claus is about this, as we'll see. You know, there'll be a Christmas episode with Little Rap Guy and Friends on YouTube about the Santa Claus. All will read the Santa Claus. St. Nicholas was put in prison, and then they had him. I read this on Wikipedia. Then they had him for debates about how the church could defend the nature of the law. In other words, defend their takes on the nature of the law. Because what is the Old Testament about? And or the derivatives, because of how we're being group forced. Tied to that. Sensibility, justification. Fake positive. Nature, a nature of fact-cheating nature that is offensively bullying and pretend to be against that. Not letting it demonstrated. Identity theft rolls through that. We have very sick prisons, overseas and here. We have natures of industries that the only way we're going to have a free election is to, you know, we need pantheism for this anyways, because you can't defend the freedom of religion if you have the religions in every nation recorded, influenced to be defended with physical delusions, with sensibilities incapable of defending that, and how the Old Testament and the Quran, for example, and how other religions demonstrably were all about the sabotage of our reception of the law, which is reality's relationship to itself as a perfect value progression, as the identity that is the discernment that is of positive and negative value nature inside it in relationship to its nature of relationship to itself. We're going to see life is just exactly like an inside of a sentence with coming sentences. And so, because the identity of all things at once, even space, even the space, nature, invisible. This is what value A through Z is revealed to teach. Beginning with A, that line going across the middle of letter A. This is to show you invisible but still discernible. Two natures of invisible but still discernible. And then with this lesson is three natures of the Trinity. And with this lesson is three natures in relationship to the identity of all things at once. The identity of the four directions is the Trinity's relationship to itself, which is a values nature relationship to itself. And we have a relationship to that as value/value nature. So the order of English is two ways. For example, I'll show you this. Just like value is 0, distinctly and non-distinctly, while it is simultaneously value 1. The same forever nature as value. Nature as value. Now, the reason it's juxtaposed with physical value 1 is so we could see. The reason space is a semi-nature, half matter, half not, half invisible, exception nature with it, is in demonstration of this. So the identity of existence is a semi-nature. And when ratiocination reveals that there is one semi-nature that is the phenomenon, you know, a little bit more of a complete nature coming into temporary/lasting space nature as a relationship to our values value to the relationship, to the identity that is all places at once, distinctly and non-distinctly, to and as Earth's value. So when we are a negative relationship to its identity of identity of value progression, as the phenomenon of Earth with no criminal persuasions, and where it is already like that, three ways perfectly gaining a volume of positive value, nature volume, in relationship to the phenomena of a little bit more of the semi-nature, of the complete nature of existence coming into temporary / lasting space nature, which is becoming increasingly of value, because that's why it's evolution here or force from here. Leith of Hadith, force space nature transfer. So what is nature? Nature is the identity, and is the identity's relationship to itself, positive or negative, per a nature of value nature system, where each complete identity is simultaneously an unceasing semi-nature relationship to perfect value progression of the complete nature that we could see through scientific discernment of and how a semi-nature is coming in, because the one identity is self-generated before matter came. That's where matter came from. One identity is self-generating three natures of volume, bonded, inherently, actively, and progressively. And as that perfect value progression, the inherent nature of volume that Earth is closest to now, the active nature of volume, which life is, and with sex is at the same time, simultaneous nature, and progressive. Our progressive value is in relationship as one identity of value. It is as a complete identity of value, is simultaneously an unceasing, valuable semi-nature relationship to the perfect value progression. That is, again, positive or negative onto itself, what is only going to stay plus, plus, plus. And so we see the ancient snow people, and Little Rap Guy and friends there will teach us through YouTube about lost course returns. The sciences share an identity. So when they have math as IQ, that's from a value nature system that has nothing to do with realities, fact, treatment, nature, quality, answers, and that's reliant upon originally left sub-rosa, criminally foreign influenced, sub-rosa, fact, treatment, nature, rackets, and manifest justifications that victim predator roles, defenses of titles, integrity that never had it. All against the surface value of the Constitution. All can't defend that nature of quality of fact, treatment, nature, in us at the same time. So how could all these news companies with quality of fact, treatment, nature, with all these resources and stuff like that, and all these, for evidence reception, how could they not have quality fact treatment nature? They're sequence shifting natures. They're hiding their crime roles with crime acts already perpetrated, with natures that they already need to hide from correlation nature, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. There was not integrity to one journalist, Woodward. That's the nature of organized crime since before we went into World War I, entrenched here. That's tied to why and how George Washington, the slavery of his stolen identity. That's why they had him and the French general together could only counter-extort, semi-counter-extort, had to leave overt slavery in the North. In Hartford, Connecticut, Wethersfield, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. They had to still leave it in the North. And that's involved with and as the nature of what was set up to adapt to whoever tried to counter what they knew they couldn't keep everybody in. No one in their right mind would want to enslave someone. See, but no, they didn't want anyone to understand it either. So they made it hurt even more. This is a fact-cheaping nature racket. A quality of fact-cheaping nature that wasn't let demonstrate fake criminally foreign influence branches. Because our founders left us to free speech. And that requires freedom for true sequence nature. But see, we have natures of industries that can't defend themselves and have been exploited already by, everything has to work the way it goes. We're in a negative value nature progression, an identity of negative value nature progression, all the nations together. Goodbye, these 5 Ds. Trying to defend identity that's not even there. It's an identity of negative value nature progression they're defending. Identities all shared as one identity, neglecting fact-cheaping nature quality, actually science, true always, not exploiting exceptions.